If you were watching Anglia News last night, you'll have seen football freestyler Dan Magness from Milton Keynes as he prepared to tackle a 5th world record.
Yeah, Dan set himself the challenge of performing Keepy-Uppys while walking between 5 Premier League football clubs in London. We sent Kate Prout to try and keep up with him.
The start of Dan Magness's epic journey across the capital.
I'm flipping good, and I'll tell you what.
Passing many of London's more famous landmarks along the way, and attracting quite a following as he goes.
Oh, beautiful. Good, very good.
By mid-morning, it's time for a photo call or two in Trafalgar Square.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Now, the last time Dan was here was back in May, when he set a new world record for Keepy-Uppys, performing for 24 hours solid. Things are a little different today.
It's been great so far. One of the hardest things has been obviously dodging the people and that, but everyone seems to be enjoying it, so legs are feeling fine. They're a little bit stiff at first, had a little problem with my knee, but after sort of a couple of miles or whatever, we seem to be doing a lot better, so yeah, I'm feeling fine at the moment.
After Dan's start at the home of Fulham, he made his way to Chelsea's Stamford Bridge. A quick stop off at Trafalgar Square before heading to West Ham and Arsenal, and finishing his Keepy-Uppy marathon at Tottenham's White Hart Lane Club, a total distance of 30 miles. He is allowed comfort breaks, although actually the only time he's static is when he's doing media interviews. Next landmark, the Tower of London, about halfway around his trip. As well as going for his 5th world record, Dan is raising money for a number of charities, including some in Africa, of course the home of the 2010 World Cup.
We're here trying to promote freestyle football as a way of life for young kids, to actually get them fit and healthy and realise how simple, it is with a ball. You can do it anywhere, and one day you can potentially be a world record holder like Dan.
Without a shadow of a doubt, Dan is a classic example of how hard work and dedication can be rewarding. Another towering performance for world record holder. Kate Prout, Anglia News, London.
It is amazing how he does that. And the latest from London is that Dan is running a little bit late because of all the people on his route, apparently.
Apparently he's still got a couple of miles to go from the Emirates Stadium, but he's confident of getting to Tottenham by half-time.
Our lovely producer thought this might be a good idea. He actually gave it to me to do some Keepy-Uppys, but I'm wearing heels that are far too big.
You used to be on the Anglia 5-side football team, didn't you? I've got no idea what you do with this.
Mr. Hughes. One knee to another.
To another? It went so well in rehearsal. Well, I did 37 in rehearsal.
I don't think you get very far with 2. Now, it's been an unsolved mystery for nearly 200 years.
Just where did John Constable stand when he painted one of his famous landscapes, the Stour Valley and the Dedham Village?
Since he completed the work, changes to field boundaries meant the exact spot that inspired Constable was difficult to identify. Now, new research by the National Trust has helped pinpoint it. Lorna Ramsey reports.
The sound of water escaping from mill dams, willows, old rotten banks, slimy posts and brickwork. I love such things. As long as I do paint, I shall never cease to paint such places.
The words of John Constable, capturing his love of Dedham Vale and the landscape of his childhood. These scenes became the inspiration behind so many of his priceless paintings. Some of the scenes are well known today, such as the Haywain by Willie Lott's cottage in Flatford. Several of Constable's paintings hang at the Christchurch Mansion in Ipswich. All art historians are sure he's one of Britain's finest landscape painters. But one thing they're not so sure of is where John Constable stood when he sketched one particular landscape. Now, experts at the National Trust believe they have solved that mystery. By studying records that date back nearly 200 years, they have found that this spot in Flatford is where Constable painted the Stour Valley and Dedham Village.
To me, this landscape looks nothing like this picture. How can you be so sure that this is the spot where John Constable stood?
Well, there are various important landscape features, which you can tell it's in this area. So we've got the bridge, for instance, Fen Bridge and Dedham Church and Langham Church, so we know it's in this rough area. What we've actually been able to identify was exactly on this spot, because of research looking at the hedge lines, but because it looks so different today, because since then a different hedge line has been planted, and of course that's obscured the view and why it's not been identified before.
John Constable didn't just choose to paint landscapes on the Essex-Suffolk border because of its beauty. He was brought up in this area. He was born at East Bergholt in Suffolk in 1776, and he was educated at Dedham Grammar School. Many of his most famous pictures were painted in and around Flatford Mill, which was owned by his father. In 1816, he married and moved to London, where he had 7 children. He painted all over the country, but he was happiest in his native Suffolk. He died in 1837. Many of Constable's viewpoints have already been located, but art historians say this one was a little harder to find.
You've got distinctive landmarks like Willie Lott's cottage, so you can be pretty sure, you know, where he was when he was painting that, and the boat builders, because, you know, there's documentary evidence of where that was happening. So when it comes to the more sort of panoramic landscapes, it's not as easy to pinpoint where the artist actually stood.
This spot will now be added to the National Trust's guided walk, so visitors can follow in the artist's footsteps and see for themselves why this area is called Constable Country. Lorna Ramsey, Anglia News, Flatford.
Oh, lovely.
It really is a fantastic view, isn't it?
It's beautiful. If only we were there in real life, eh, David?
Absolutely. Not much has changed in 200 years anyway.
Now here's Mary Nightingale with what to expect on the national news in a couple of minutes.
Coming up on the ITV News, it's official.
It's now time for the weather. Here's Rachel Mackley.
Control the weather.
Still winter then?
Absolutely. It's nearly time to go, but there's just time for, I think, to embarrass you after you did it earlier.
Come on then, give it here. Right, here we go.
Oh, this is good, this is good. That's it from us. Good night.